In this video, we're going to take a look at the 835 PLB reporter in our EDI utility toolbox, one of 19 tools in the toolbox at the time of this video. We're always adding new tools, so do check back often. What is a PLB? Well, it is a provider level adjustment in an 835 electronic remittance file. And it's an adjustment made to the amount of the payment, but that adjustment doesn't relate to any claims inside that file. So it could be things like interest payments or some prior balance, that type of thing. Here is a sample of a PLB segment taken from a raw 835 file. The PLB indicates the segment identifier. The first segment, PLB01, the first element, PLB01, is the provider ID. This is just gibberish here, but in the real world, it's most likely going to be the NPI of the provider receiving payment, the date of the fiscal period end, accounting type transaction, and then the actual adjustments come in a block of two, basically, a reference and an amount. But the reference is a compound field. It has a code and an identifier in it. And the code, in this case FB, that is dictated by the specification. FB means forwarding balance, so there was money on hand from a prior balance. And that 62 number there, that's some kind of reference number that the receiver of the file should be able to use to reconcile that adjustment to something. It might be a claim number, it might be a prior check number, it could be something like that. And then the dollar amount, 522.15. Now adjustments are considered to take away from a payment. So if you see a negative like this, negative 522, it's actually adding to the final payment. There is a second adjustment on the same line here. And this WO is actually an overpayment recovery. ID coincidentally is the same, actually not coincidentally. For some reason these two adjustments want to cancel each other out because it's a 522.15 positive using the same reference number. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on in the background of that particular file, because this did come from a real file. But those two basically canceled each other out, but that's not common. Now here's a look at a more robust section of PLB out of a file. And you can have as many as 6 of those adjustments per segment or line going across. You can also have an unlimited number of segments going down. So in this particular example, we got 4 different lines or segments of PLB, and each one of them has multiple adjustments on them. So this is a fairly large set of adjustments. So you can see when you get this kind of spread, if you will, the PLB reporter can be very, very useful to you. What it does is it scans 835 files, either singly or in a group, and reports back only the amount of those PLB adjustments and their descriptors. You can do it for a single file, a selected group of files, or an entire folder full of files. And once you get those grid results in front of you, you can then, in addition to looking at them, you can export them to Excel, where you can print them, you can analyze them, you can use them to import into another system, etc. All right, let's take a look at this guy. All right, here is our EDI utility toolbox. I'm going to select the 835 PLB reporter right here. I'm also going to minimize the main screen for visibility. I'm also going to move this off to the side for a second. So here's our interface. We need to tell it which files we're going to read or analyze. We can do that one of 3 ways. We can add them one at a time, and it calls up your standard Windows open dialog box, open file dialog box, and you can just browse to files, and you don't have to worry about whether or not they are actually 835 files. And this one here, I've got a hunch, is actually an 820. We don't care yet. You can put the files in here. When you go to do the scan, the system will tell you whether or not it's an 835 file. I can remove these one at a time, or I can clear the whole field. And I'll show you the second method, which you can read files. And you can call up Windows Explorer, and using your control click or your shift click mouse function, which come right, those are standard Windows selection functions. You can drag them into that window. Once again, we don't really care. This one hints it might be an 837, but it really doesn't matter because the software will tell you whether or not it's an 835. The third way to do it is to point at an entire folder full of files. So I'm going to click this button here, and this folder could be on your local drive like I have it, or it could be a network folder, doesn't matter. And once I selected that, it went through and it populated my list. Yet again, we still don't care. This one certainly looks like it could be a 271 file. When we click this button, it will do the work for us. And as you can see, it just scanned through and it displayed all the PLBs that were available. It skipped the ones that weren't. You can see anything without a check mark in the box is not an 835, so it just happily ignores them. From this point here to the left, we're giving you the information on the check, so you know who the payment and the adjustment, in which payment the adjustment is for. So we tell you the payer, we tell you the payee, we tell you the payment reference number, which is of the check or the remittance, the amount of the remittance, what the method was, check, ACH, or non in this case, and the payment date. So that helps you find, which one it's attached to. And then you come over here, starting here, and to the right, your PLB adjustment, provider ID, and the date, and then 1 through 6 scrolling to the right of PLB code, reference, and dollar amount. Now these codes, we also provide for you the descriptor that goes with the code. So FB is forwarding balance. You can also click this button here and just have the codes. So maybe you want to import this into a database or something, and you only care about the code, the J1 or the FB. Once I've got it in my grid, I can export this, which I've already done prior to this video starting, and I can export it directly to Excel, and here's that same information in an Excel file, which of course once it's in Excel you can do whatever you wish with it. And that is the 835 PLB Reporter tool. Check back often for more tools and more tutorials.